Donald Trump's efforts to prosecute his political enemies have been legion, but thus far, they haven't resulted in any charges yet. Maybe one reason for that is because he can't find any prosecutors to actually do it. Now, at first glance, it doesn't seem likely because, after all, the Justice Department is completely led and staffed, perhaps now by people who are loyal only to Trump, as opposed to, let's say, the Constitution. But the latest story that's breaking is apparently the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, that's the top federal prosecutor there, it looks like he's going to get fired because he's not doing Trump's bidding as much as Trump wants him to do. Is this an example of the institution actually standing in the way of Trump, or is there something else to it? Let's break it down some. But before we do that, make sure you subscribe, so hit that button for us. Now, taking a look at that headline, let's remember who some of these targets for Trump are. John Brennan, director of the CIA, who Trump blames for intelligence conclusions that Russia was meddling with the 2016 election. They were James Comey, FBI director that Trump blames for being in charge of the FBI when they began to investigate that interference with the 2016 election. Leticia James, New York State AG, who secured the civil fraud verdict against Trump and his companies in the millions of dollars. She's the one that Trump called a racist for going after him. Leticia James is black and Trump is white. But at least as to James and Comey, his desire to have criminal prosecutions against them have thus far run into a little bit of an obstacle. That obstacle seems to be, maybe it's justice, but in the form of the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, who dutifully opened the investigations, but he can't seem to find anything. That U.S. Attorney is a guy named Erik S. Siebert. He's a former D.C. cop, worked his way up through the ranks of the U.S. Attorney's Office over more than a decade. He's handled actual cases, international drug and firearms trafficking, white-collar crime, child sexual exploitation. And, as the New York Times reports, he was particularly active in immigration cases targeting immigrant gangs during the Trump administration. Supposedly, people at Justice liked him, like Emil Bove, who was a top official but now is going to become a lifetime appointed judge. Charles Grassley of Iowa, prominent Republican chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, likes him too. You can kind of see why, right? I mean, he looks like a kind of perfect Republican prosecutor resume, former cop, came up through the ranks. Is that what the problem is with him? According to public reporting in the New York Times, and I think ABC first broke this, sources have said that senior Justice Department officials had been told by Siebert that there was just insufficient evidence to bring charges against Leticia James, and also expressed concerns about any kind of potential case against James Comey. So that probably was not happy news, but Leticia James, happy news for Trump, Leticia James' case started, if you remember, because a guy named William J. Pulte, director of the esteemed Federal Housing Finance Agency, he apparently seems to be one of the most influential people in government now, he made a criminal referral claiming James lied on her mortgage application because she'd listed more than one house as her principal residence. Looks like after the review of this, she did at one point list that in the paperwork, but the rest of the paperwork apparently disclosed that was not her principal residence, and the mortgage decision was not based on that. So it doesn't seem like there's anything there in terms of a criminal prosecution. So that's a problem for bringing that. But Pulte didn't like that, and other White House officials, including Pulte, wanted this prosecutor fired because he's not doing enough to push Trump's agenda. By the way, Pulte's the same guy who wanted criminal charges brought against Lisa Cook, the Federal Reserve governor. Same notion, she listed something improper on her mortgage application that Trump also wants to get rid of. Now, for that political headline we just put up, the Politico headline, I'm really struck by just how odd that headline is. I mean, how many things are wrong with it? A housing official is leading probes, that's kind of weird, and he's leading probes into the president's foes, like he's not leading probes into things that look like actual problems in the housing world. He's leading probes into enemies, people the president doesn't like. So many things wrong with that, it's kind of hard to know where to begin with it. But typically, the basis for a legitimate probe isn't simply the president doesn't like you. Even Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, the one who went to give the happy little visit with Ghislaine Maxwell and then had her transferred, or maybe Trump had her transferred to a very easy, cushy prison camp. Even he and Attorney General Pam Bondi seemed to be trying to protect this Prosecutor Sebert because there wasn't enough evidence to bring charges against Leticia James. He also seemed to be trying his best, Siebert did, with the James Comey investigation. He put people into the grand jury, according to reporting, even putting in a close friend of Comey's, trying to see whether there'd been some kind of improper leak to the New York Times or other media institutions. Evidently, that grand jury testimony didn't produce anything that was very incriminatory, so that wasn't going too well. So these probes don't look like they're going anyplace. But you know who is going someplace? Siebert. He's out of the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Virginia. Side note, the Eastern District of Virginia, known as EDVA, is not just any old U.S. Attorney's Office in the middle of no place. It's one of the most prestigious in the country. It has a reputation for doing very serious, difficult national security cases and terrorism cases, given its proximity to D.C. Asked about this issue of Siebert on his way out, Trump first claimed he didn't know much about it. Then, of course, he actually admitted he wanted Siebert gone, and then further elaborated about this subject he doesn't know much about. This is all in one single press conference, that he didn't like Siebert because Siebert had been nominated by 2 Democratic senators in Virginia. Now, Trump ignored the fact that the only reason he nominated Siebert was those senators had suggested that Siebert be nominated. Now, according to inside sources, as reported publicly, Siebert apparently told a group of prosecutors he is considering resigning, and that his first assistant, that would be like the number 2 person in the office, has been demoted to just being a line prosecutor from her position there. Now, what strikes me about this, as we mentioned in the beginning, is how unusual it would be that Attorney General Bondi and Todd Blanche, the Deputy AG, would stick up for somebody when Trump and his new attack person, Pulte, want that person gone. Why would they suddenly have an attack of conscience? Is that what happened? They suddenly believe that the Justice Department actually needs to abide by standards of justice, like having real evidence before they can prosecute people? Is that what's going on? Nah, probably not. What's probably going on is that they're worried about running out of prosecutors, top prosecutors to appoint to be U.S. attorneys. Recall the problem they had in New Jersey, where the DOJ's attempts to keep Trump attorney Alina Habba in her position after she was opposed by federal judges and her interim appointment had expired at that point. They did some shenanigans to try and keep her in there. People objected, saying that it's improper, she's not there lawfully. And then, of course, a federal judge actually ruled that she's not in there lawfully, which is a huge problem, because that means all of the criminal cases and investigations going on in her name as the top prosecutor in that time can be called into question because she wasn't lawfully the top prosecutor then. Similar problem going on in Delaware, where again, Trump's DOJ is trying to extend the term of an interim person who the judges don't want to continue as the interim person. They need to appoint someone else. Now, in contrast, Siebert in EDVA, which is hardly a bastion of liberal judiciary people, they indicated they liked Siebert. They wanted him to continue on. Now, in the Trump administration, seems like that's always the kiss of death, if it appears that any lower court judges might favor you because Trump only likes the conservative cadre at SCOTUS, Supreme Court, and he dislikes all those pesky lower court judges who sometimes rule against him. And I wrote about this here. You know, in the Watergate scandal, the Saturday Night Massacre was where Nixon wanted first his Attorney General to fire the Watergate special prosecutor, but the Attorney General resigned rather than follow Nixon's order. Then Nixon wanted the Deputy Attorney General to fire the special prosecutor. He also quit rather than comply with Nixon's order. At the time, this was an unprecedented series of resignations by the very top officials at DOJ who would rather quit than comply with what appeared to be a corrupt order seeking to remove an opponent, a foe of President Nixon's. But like many other things the Trump administration has done, they've made this sort of unprecedented thing commonplace. For the Trump Justice Department, every night is Saturday night a massacre. So we'll keep an eye on this going forward. Talk to you soon.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.